So, this is a change of pace, don't you think? Instead of streaming for 2 hours and 30 minutes every day, I'll make a video that will require me to work on it for 2 hours and 30 minutes every day. But I'm not here to talk about how terrible I am at streaming or recording. I am here to explain to you the debatably best update in Hypixel Skyblock, what the game was like before, after, and more. Last thing I want to tell you before the video continues, please consider subscribing. This video actually took some effort and I tend to stream every day, so just consider it an option. Anyways, back to the video. Alright, now let me remind you of a time back when the Ember Rod was the best weapon and the Coliseum was open. It's funny comparing that time to now, since back then we were trying to get an Ember Rod by dealing the most damage and not having good RNG. Emerald Armor made people think of you as the richest person they'll ever meet, and in a sense, they were right. You see, there's not much to talk about old Skyblock, since that's what it was. Not much. But all of us idiots considered it fun, so now let's fast forward a small while. August 2nd. Took them 1 month, which isn't bad in today's update time standard. But anyway, August 2nd was the first update in Skyblock, and debatably the best. This update was absolutely massive, a brand new skill, the first of many great songs, and, most importantly, a brand new island. The amount of shit that was added was massive. A new island, easier way to get ender pearls, brand new weapons, brand new armor sets, and most importantly, a brand new boss. The second boss in the game was a dragon. Well, technically 5, corresponding with their own armor sets, but let's start from what you will probably experience first. If you were an old Skyblock player, you would know how annoying it would be to get an Enderman minion. But now instead of making a little dark box that is an exact replica of your room, you just have to kill these guys. I mean, how hard could it be? Oh dear God, that was your biggest mistake since thinking this game was going to actually turn out good. Now you see, if you're a new player now, you're going to probably one-tap them. But back then, you were only to dream as a mid-game player to kill one of the middle stage ones. But let's say you were somehow able to kill one and got lucky. You would get one of the best armor sets at the time, Ender Armor. Of course you know what this is. You've seen people complain wearing this, you've probably worn it yourself, it needs no introduction. So then, let's say you get to the bottom, and you are welcomed into the one and only Dragon's Nest. You enter the Dragon's Nest and are appalled at the view. This massive arena, and with the name Dragon's Nest, you can only imagine what this is used for. In the center of the room, floating above an altar, a giant egg. Alright. Let's go from beginning to end, pun on and intended. Okay, by now you probably have Ender Armor in an aspect of the end, so you go around and notice a couple new fuckers in town. Watcher, literal weirdo that shoots worms at you with a big eye, and is pretty much useless, unless you like Endstone bows. Obsidian Defenders, these guys were broken for a while, but we're not talking about the future, we are in the past. And these guys were nice since they dropped obsidian chestplates. And the main man that you came here for, Zealots. Zealots? Zealots? Whatever you want to fucking call them. You probably think to yourself, hey, this guy seems like all the others. I think I can kill him. And just like that, half of your pennies are gone. These guys were not playing around, and they only knew one form of communication. Pain. But, let's say you get to kill this idiot. Let's say the planets align, and the stars as well, for you, and you kill enough of them to get a summoning eye. And you get what you came here for. You get what you wanted. You get a chance at fighting a dragon. You and your friends go to the Dragon's Nest, all of you with summoning eyes. You all place them down, and you hear one thing, a scream. Suddenly, the gate closes, and the giant egg explodes into a million pieces, and out of the rubble, you see a dragon emerge. Now, needless to say, this was massive, incredible. Even to this day, I get that bit of excitement when I do one. Before you were just shooting your bow at a giant magma cube, but now you have this giant creature running around the arena with both of you having the same goal in mind. Kill the other. Alright, you and your friends probably paid a fortune for those little things, since the prices then were huge. You probably need to get your own. But nonetheless, you got them and placed them. You probably don't know what you're in for, but you probably tried to over-prepare, including a bow. Before this, bows were semi-useless. And yes, even though you probably needed them for the magma boss, they still weren't necessary by any means. But back then they were. You see, this massive behemoth speeds around the area that takes you 1 minute to run across, and you were probably terrified. There's no way you were hitting that thing with a sword yet. And so you realize that the thing you bought for 12k with aiming is useful. But all that changes around what dragon you get. Young runs around faster than the speed of light, strong deals more damage, unstable shoots lightning more often, wise deals more lightning damage, protector takes less damage, old has more health, and superior, the one that you actually care about, has all of the above. But nonetheless, once you kill this massive creature, you get a chance at a couple rewards. Dragon weight is a thing, so yeah, those eyes you placed actually mattered. The couple rewards that you got at the time were fragments and armor sets of the dragon you fought, or an aspect of the dragons. These right now don't sound the best, and are probably worth little to nothing, but you have to rewind and realize that at the time, people were running around with ember rods and ember or emerald armor. The armor sets were so fucking massive compared to everything else, and of course, this changed a couple things in the game. In fact, a noticeable amount of it. Suddenly, emerald armor is no longer even useful. Suddenly, people triple or quadruple their damage count. So many new things to do with such a clear goal. No armor set is better to grind for. People start making a clear path in their head. Diamond, hardened diamond, ender armor, dragon armor. Just like that, ember armor is taken out of the equation, starting its downfall. Eventually, you see people just stop going there for the boss. The top of the auction house is just filled with swords and superior armor and frags. The update changed for as little as there was everything. Suddenly, players start realizing they might actually have to play together. Instead of before, when it was just competing with the people around you, now you actually semi-need to cooperate. God splashes were popularized in order to let people actually kill zealots and dragons much easier. You actually were recommended to play with your friends. Since dragons required 8 eyes, people realized it'd be faster and better as a team. So overall, people went around lobbies advertising and asking to join dragon teams. Overall, I feel like apart from a tiny bit of dungeons and Dwarven Mines V2 event better together, this was the biggest impact of playing and cooperating with other people in the game. But as soon as people realized damage and teams were optimal, they started trying a few new tactics. Okay, let's fast forward a slight bit. Let's go to December 4th, 2019. So shit has changed. Tuxedos, spooky events, and slayers. So why does anyone give a shit about slayers? Well, let's start from first to last. Well, you see, this is when people started finding out about sword swapping. In case you didn't know or forgot, sword swapping, as the name implies, swapping your sword. And people started discovering that. Well, there's an NPC in the hub called the Weaponsmith, who sells a variety of early game weapons, one of them being an end sword. Well, you might be wondering, but hey, didn't you tell us these are early game weapons? And to that I will tell you to shut the fuck up and don't question me. But anyway, yes, they're early game weapons, and they have abilities. The end sword deals 100% extra damage to endermen, endermites, and ender dragons. So if you swapped with a sword or a bow, you deal extra damage. So unless you have the same amount of brain cells as the sword itself, you can piece things together. But this was a new thing, and with that, new ideas. Using swords for a dragon fight, who would ever do that? But remember, by this point, since we skipped time, slayers are a thing. And along with that, the tarantula slayer is too. And it comes with the tarantula set, designed to kill the slayer boss easier. But the boots ability becomes noticed which is double jump. And people think to themselves, hey, I deal more damage with my sword than my bow. But how? But the ability uses mana. So if you are wearing a good damage set, you probably don't have that. And so people question themselves, wondering how this solution can be overcome. And just as they found a good use for one set, they found a good use for another. Crystal Armor, which at this point is completely useless, since the admins took out keeping mana between sets. But yeah, back then you were able to swap out armor sets and have enough mana to actually fly around. But if you can recall back to earlier, people realized something. Along with the 0.7.4 update came a brand new armor set, which is by all dictionaries the definition of a glass cannon. The tuxedos. Now, if you're an average working class citizen, you probably won't be able to afford the cheap tux. But if you were rich enough to actually grind dragons, then you shouldn't have a problem purchasing this. Only problem is survivability. This is where the most useless item of the update comes from. Remnants of the Eye, which heal you back to full the moment death is going to give you a ticket to hell where you belong. Now, if you call back to the Emerald Blade we just talked about earlier, it increases damage with the more money you have in your purse. So, combine all these things together, and you get a fucking sweat that has the definition of nothing to do all day but sit down and play a funny little Lego block game. But you see, these were all great things about the update. And truthfully, I love the update to the bottom of my heart. But this is also when things started rolling downhill. So you see, with an update that good, and Simon promising weekly updates, hope was at an all-time high. With an update that was this great, that had affected the game in so many ways, with the effort and creativity this update had, it hyped all the others up. But yet somehow, it seemed to have been an empty hope, as with Slayers turning out as it is, with bugs and all, and not to mention updates after it. And the fact that weekly updates was practically unheard of a couple months after the end update. But even though that doesn't mean that most of the updates came out still, there are still exceptions, of course, depending how this video does and ends out, and if it actually does well. I might talk about other ones, such as Pets Update V1 and 2, Dungeons, and also shit on the Dwarven Mines. Dwarven Mines V2 is cool though. But this is my opinion on the best update. I still love it, no matter how old it is and how unused it is as well. First of all, I want to apologize if this video was all over the place. Mostly because this is my first semi-long video, an actual video. But I promise, or try to guarantee, that this will come out better and faster than this one if I actually make another one. Another thing I want to apologize to all of you guys that watch my dumbass streams. I really wanted to get this video out, and since I broke my live streaming streak, I felt like this was the time to do it. Sorry if it isn't what you guys are used to, but I still hope you enjoy this change of pace. I will hopefully stream the day I upload this or after. And lastly, I want to ask you to subscribe because I like seeing that number go up. I really appreciate it. And I do live streaming almost every day. Alright. Thank you all. That's it. I'm gonna go take a nice rest now. I still have to fucking edit this. Oh,